On 26 September 2020, while addressing to the general debate of General Assembly, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, declared that United Nations reform is the need of the hour. Addressing the 75th session of UN General Assembly, Prime Minister Modi at one hand applauded the achievements of United Nations, including the avoidance of a third world war, at the same time questioned the achievement of the organization. He said that since the inception of the organization, there has been many conflicts, but today's challenges are vastly different from those of the past. All these have raised several questions regarding the relevance of United Nations before us. This video will dissect this issue in a much deeper way. So stay tuned with us.
Namaskar. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Aaradhya, the Gateway of Knowledge.
On the historic General Assembly meeting of United Nations, Indian Prime Minister raised an important question. Where is United Nations in this joint fight against COVID-19 pandemic? Where is its effective response? Prime Minister Modi's statement renewed the debate on the relevance of United Nations in this globalized world, especially during this pandemic. But before we start the debate on the relevance of United Nations, let's look into its origin and background. Now let's look into the origin and the background of United Nations. The forerunner of United Nations was the League of Nations, an organization conceived in circumstances of the First World War and established in 1919 under the Treaty of Versailles. This was in order to promote international cooperation and achieve peace and security. However, it ceased to operate in the year 1946. League of Nations turned unsuccessful because it failed to stop the Second World War. On 24 October 1945, the United Nations as an international organization was founded. Currently, there are 193 member states in United Nations. On October 2020, UN celebrated its 75th anniversary. However, as UN failed to prevent COVID-19 pandemic, people are again discussing whether UN is still relevant in this 21st century or not. There are two schools of thoughts regarding the relevance of United Nations. According to one school of thought, United Nations is still relevant. This can be asserted due to following reasons. Number one, if we talk about new developments in international relations, the 21st century has seen the rise of the new Cold War between United States and China in terms of trade war. Within this global development, according to some analysts, United Nations seems relevant. Also, there is growing differences between US and its European partners on major global issues like Iran nuclear deal and American first policy, especially during Trump era. All these developments also makes United Nations an important and relevant international actor. Second, UN action for peace. It can be said that United Nations is still relevant because it is actively working to maintain peace within the international community. The world has not seen war since 1945 and UN has played an important role in this direction. In this regard, it is important to keep into mind the role of UN peacekeeping missions. UN has taken active role in providing security, political and peace-building support to countries under conflict. The first ever use of UN peacekeeping forces was in Gaza Strip and Sinai in 1956 with the name UN Emergency Force. Some other important peacekeeping missions under United Nations One Africa are there in your screen. Over past 72 years, More than 1 million women and men from 125 countries have served in 71 peacekeeping missions. Currently, UN is keeping peace with 90,000 peacekeepers in 12 operations around the world. This humanitarian aspect of United Nations makes it still relevant and important. Third, UN role in upholding democracy. UN has always been ahead in spreading the spirit of democracy in member countries. United Nations activities in support of democracy are carried out through various agencies like United Nations Development Programme, United Nations Democracy Fund, the Department of Peace Operations, the Department of Political and Peace-Building Affairs, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and the United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women, among others. These values are even embodied in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights developed them even further and lays down the legal basis for the principle of democracy in international law. It can be said that UN has always stood for upholding democratic rights to women. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women prescribes that all its 189 contracting parties shall take all appropriate measures to ensure that women can vote and contest elections and participate in public life and decision-making, including at international level. In this direction, resolutions 19/36 and 28/14 on human rights, democracy and rule of law adopted by Human Rights Council in 2006 also stands very important. In 2015, world leaders committed in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It was globally accepted at UN platform that democracy, good governance and rule of law both at national and international levels are essential for sustainable development. Such proactive role taken by UN in furthering development and democracy in the world makes it a relevant multilateral body. Number 4. United Nations and its proactive role in protection of human rights. UN is also working on protecting human rights in the member countries, which is very much needed in the present times. The United Nations Human Rights Council is the body working for the same. UNHRC is a United Nations body whose mission is to promote and protect human rights around the world. The most recent initiative by UNHRC in this direction is the Resolution 46/1 adopted on March 23, 2021. This new resolution requires Sri Lankan government to hold human rights abusers to account and deliver justice to victims of its 26-year civil war. The United Nations Human Rights Council resolution on Sri Lanka is not only a victory for victims of abuses, but also an attempt to establish a powerful new accountability process to collect, analyze, and preserve evidence of human rights violations in Sri Lanka for use in future prosecutions. Now, looking from such perspective also, we can argue that United Nations still holds relevance. Number 5. United Nations and promotion of comprehensive development across the world. The fact that United Nations is promoting social, economic and technological development since 1945 proves that UN is still relevant. One of the UN's central mandate is the promotion of higher standards of living, full employment and economic and social development. Millennium Development Goals and now Sustainable Development Goals aims at eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, achieving universal primary education, promoting gender equality and empowering women, reducing child mortality, improving maternal health, combating HIV/AIDS, malaria and other diseases, and ensuring environmental sustainability. The United Nations Development Programme is the UN's largest provider of grant for sustainable human development worldwide, is actively involved in attaining these goals. In this direction, the UN Children Fund is a lead United Nations organization working for long-term survival, protection and development of children. Similarly, there is UN World Food Programme which is the world's largest international food aid organization for both emergency relief and development. Also, there is the United Nations Population Fund, which is the largest international provider of population assistance. Along with these development programs, there is the United Nations Environment Program, which aims at encouraging sound environmental practices at global level. Also, the United Nations Human Settlement Program assists people living in health-threatening housing conditions. Now, all these bodies and development programs conducted under the aegis of United Nations still makes it relevant. Number 6. United Nations and the road to new international economic order. There has always been a concern over international trade and market between global north and global south. Also, there was a great discussion over the economic disparity between these two worlds. In this regard, in year 1964, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, which is also called UNCTAD, was created as a permanent intergovernmental body. This body aims to increase the participation of developing countries in the global economy and provide a forum for these countries to discuss issues related to their economic development. During 1970s, through UNCTAD, the new international economic order as a set of proposals was put forward by some developing countries in order to promote their interest. It was meant to be a revision of the international economic system in favor of the third world countries, thereby replacing the Bretton Woods system, which has benefited the leading states, especially the United States. Now, the very fact that efforts like NIEO has been taken up under the banner of United Nations provides force to the argument that UN is still relevant. Number 7. United Nations and its effort in combating terrorism. UN has always taken a proactive step in combating terrorism. In 1995, United Nations General Assembly passed the historic resolution 49/60 titled Declaration on Measures to Eliminate International Terrorism, which became the guidelines for every nation for combating terrorism both nationally and internationally. After 9/11 attack, United Nations Security Council passed the resolution 1368, which recognized states' right to self-defense in case of terrorist attack. In 2003, United Nations General Assembly passed the resolution titled Measures to Prevent Terrorists from Acquiring Weapons of Mass Destruction, asking states to adopt such measures. On 13th April 2005, United Nations General Assembly adopted the International Convention for the Suppression of Acts of Nuclear Terrorism. On 13th October 2010, the United Nations Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy was passed to enhance national, regional, and international efforts for countering terrorism. Since terrorism is a major global issue and UN has always taken proactive role in condemning and combating it, proves that United Nations is still relevant. Number 8. United Nations and its effort to ensure food security. UN has always taken active initiatives in ensuring food security and nutrition. In 2015, the Committee on World Food Security was commenced, which aimed at ending hunger by 2030. The first ever voluntary guidelines on food systems and nutrition meant to end hunger and malnutrition were endorsed by members of the Committee on World Food Security on February 11, 2021. These efforts by United Nations also makes it an important and relevant body in today's world. Number 10. United Nations and COVID-19 response. Even though the United Nations has failed in preventing the COVID-19 pandemic, it can work effectively to prevent future pandemics. Also, it would be too idealist to expect any institution to succeed all the time. With information sharing and international cooperation, the member countries can save the world from future pandemics with the help of a global body like United Nations. In context of COVID-19 pandemic, the UN Secretary General has launched the UN Comprehensive Response to COVID-19 to save lives, protect societies, and recover in a better way. Despite these achievements, serious questions are raised regarding the relevance of United Nations in today's world. Thus, there is another school of thought which questions the relevance of United Nations based on the following arguments. Number one, asymmetrical power distribution. It is often argued that United Nations Security Council, one of the most powerful organs of United Nations, does not seem relevant in the present time. UNSC has 5 permanent members: USA, Russia, Britain, China, France, along with 10 non-permanent members. It is noteworthy that permanent members can use veto power, which is often misused by them in blocking key decisions. This could be illustrated by following examples. As far as violence in Gaza Strip is concerned, since 1970, the United States has used its veto power as a permanent member of UNSC to block resolutions censoring Israel. US has also recognized Jerusalem as Israeli capital and has vetoed a UNSC resolution condemning the same. More than 40 times, US has used its veto power to save the interest of Israel. It is also important to note that since 1990, the United States has cast a veto on Council's resolution 16 times concerning Israeli-Palestine relationship. Looking into the incident of chemical attacks conducted by the Syrian regime, most of the United Nations Security Council members, both permanent as well as temporary, believed that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been using chemical weapons against its citizens. But Russia and China seems to believe otherwise. So whenever a resolution was tabled in the Security Council regarding the same, Russia has always vetoed it and China has sometimes vetoed it and sometimes abstained. Russia has also vetoed resolution which condemned Syrian president for suppressing any oppression he faces. They also vetoed resolution threatening to impose sanctions on Syria. It should be noted that more than 10 vetoes has been used by Russia to protect the interest of Bashar al-Assad regime. Now let's take another example. After the attack on Indian Air Force Base in Pathankot, which was orchestrated by Jaish-e-Mohammed founder Masood Azhar, India started its effort in UNSC to designate Masood Azhar as a terrorist. However, this move has been blocked by China by using its veto power. Beijing considers itself an all-weather friend of Pakistan. It has its China-Pakistan Economic Corridor project to think of and therefore always shield Pakistan and the terrorists that it harbors within its border. It is to be taken into account that US, UK and France has moved resolutions to declare Masood Azhar as a global terrorist, but the efforts have always been hampered by China. China has in total vetoed such a resolution by Indian allies in United Nations Security Council 4 times. Number 2, asymmetrical representation in United Nations Security Council. There is no representation of developing countries, African countries, and Southern Hemisphere countries in United Nations Security Council. This doesn't suit to the present time, which emphasizes the need for equality. India is therefore striving for permanent membership in this regard. While addressing the 75th United Nations General Assembly session, Prime Minister Modi said that while India's respect for the organization is unparalleled, India is waiting for reforms in United Nations decision-making structures. With this kind of asymmetrical representation, analyst considers United Nations as an irrelevant body. Number 3, the United Nations General Assembly can only make non-binding recommendations, which is another reason for the ineffectiveness of United Nations. Number 4, United Nations is facing a permanent financial crisis since its budget remained tightly constrained. Also, donor countries failed to pay their contribution in time. Now, all these factors put a big question mark on the relevance of United Nations in today's world. Number 5, it has often been said that UN functioning is influenced by its donors. This often leads to the misuse of power by its own donors. Earlier, the funding was dominated by USA, and now as it is reducing its fund, China is increasing its contribution and influencing United Nations as per its wishes. Also, WHO has failed miserably in preventing the COVID-19 pandemic. At one hand, at the United Nations Security Council, China blocked a serious discussion on the origin and sources of the pandemic. On the other hand, US walked out of WHO on allegations of supporting China. Number 7. Still billions of people are living in poverty, which makes us wonder whether we need a new international organization to work effectively on global challenges. Also, the fact that regional organizations and other small international organizations are growing and becoming popular demonstrates the fact that United Nations is losing its relevance. So now what needs to be done? First of all, there is an urgent need for reforms within United Nations. This would involve, first of all, expansion of United Nations Security Council and granting equal regional representation within it. The structure of 15-member Security Council ought to be made more democratic and representative. There has been a long overdue demand, especially from the so-called group of 4 countries, including Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan, regarding expansion of UNSC and granting permanent seats to them. Also, there is a demand for elimination of veto power and a power balance within United Nations Security Council. Another important demand is the reform within United Nations General Assembly. It has also been suggested that the power of associated UN bodies should be enhanced. The Economic and Social Council has been criticized as it has become overshadowed by institutions such as IMF and World Bank, which are lacking democratic processes, transparency, and accountability. Also, it has often been criticized that United Nations peacekeeping operations are ineffective and toothless. So, there is a need to include more personnel and carry out structural reforms for United Nations peacekeeping operations. Also, new UN bodies should be created to tackle other global challenges like pandemics, climate change, etc. to make it more relevant. There is a need to increase transparency and improve information sharing, the lack of which led to COVID-19 pandemic. Possible solutions to reform UN finances could be establishing a reserve fund or even a world tax. And lastly, funding should be brought from diverse resources to avoid the misuse of power and dominance. Ending the discussion, we can say that given the global issues, today the world needs multilateralism more than ever. With so many global issues prevailing, there is a need for a multilateral intergovernmental body like United Nations. However, in order to suit the newer challenges of 21st century, there is of course a need for reforms within United Nations. Better transparency and information sharing can of course make United Nations a much more effective organization.
Thanks for watching our video.
If you want us to keep making such informative videos, please like, share and subscribe our channel.
Aaradhya, the gateway of knowledge.
Till then, goodbye, take care and stay safe.